The Federal Reserve is quietly making some people rich, and you're not one of them. These people are going to be multi-millionaires very soon because of this change that the Federal Reserve is about to make. But if you pay a very close attention, I will show you exactly what the Fed is trying to do and how you can take advantage out of it. This is probably the biggest change to the US economy that is happening right now since World War II. And I know that this sounds like a huge exaggeration, but if you pay attention, you will realize that it's already happening. But a lot of people are not paying attention. In the last meeting of the Federal Reserve kept the interest rates the way they are at about 3.7%, when a lot of people were expecting that the Fed is going to hike the interest rates. So if you look at the yields, you will realize that since February 27, since Donald Trump started the war against Iran, the yields on 10-year treasuries are rising for obvious reasons. Because on one side, inflation is rising, which means that investors are expecting higher real returns, which means that the Fed's supposed to hike the interest rates. But if you pay a very close attention, starting for about June or July, the yields on these treasuries started going down this moment because this is when the Federal Reserve is supposed to announce that we're hiking the interest rates in order to tackle inflation. But Kevin Warsh comes out and says that, no, we are going to hold the interest rates the way they are. Right after that, the yields on 10-year treasuries instantly rise from 4.4% to 4.8%. At first glance, it doesn't seem like a big deal. But we are talking about trillions or dozens of trillions of dollars worth of debt in the market. If the yields on them are going to rise, that will cost the US government hundreds of billions of dollars annually. The exact same thing also happens on 30-year treasuries. You can see that right before the announcement, the yields are going down because the market expecting the Fed to raise the interest rates. But even though that the Fed did not raise the interest rates, the yields instantly spiked. And that means that the Federal Reserve raised the interest rates without actually raising the interest rates. So why exactly the yields are much higher than the rates that the Federal Reserve has set up? Because during that meeting, the Federal Reserve did two unexpected things. First of all, he ensured to the market that we're no longer going to guide the market. We want the free market to set up the interest rate in the market, the yields in the market. It should not be part of the job of the Fed. And that's very different from what has been happening since early 2000s. So back then, the government decided that we're going to expand our balance sheet and we are going to borrow much more money. So to ensure that the national debt is not going to get out of control, the Federal Reserve jumped in and it started guiding the market. So the Fed would say that this is what we expect out of the market. So if inflation is going to go down, we will lower interest rates by the end of the year or vice versa. So the entire market would basically follow what the Federal Reserve would say. But now Kevin Warsh is like, no, that's not our job anymore. We are just going to keep the rates the way they are, and it's not our job to set up the forward guidance for the market. So that got investors very nervous because we're not just talking about free market. In that free market, there is an entity called the US government that holds $40 trillion worth of debt. And if anything happens to that debt, if the US government is unable to pay that debt, if there are any problems with that debt, it is instantly going to hit the entire market. So investors are like, we are worried. The second thing happened is that Kevin Warsh hinted that the way we measure inflation no longer makes sense. We have to reevaluate the way we measure inflation. So inflation in February dropped to 2.4%, which is great. Finally, a few more months, we might be able to lower interest rates. So everybody will enjoy from lower interest rates. But then suddenly, due to high oil prices, inflation rises to 4.2% and now it's sitting at about 3.5%. So his argument is that this inflation is artificial. This is not happening because actual prices are rising in the market. This inflation is happening because oil prices on the other side of the world are rising, and this is a temporary thing. The moment the war in Iran is over, this inflation is going to come down. So why don't we come out with a new way? Basically, anytime there are price shocks in the market, whether prices rise dramatically or they fall dramatically, you're not going to make that part of inflation data. And now imagine if you are a bondholder. What you want out of a bond is that you want a real return. And a real return is the return that you get, the yield from your treasury minus inflation. So if inflation is 4%, anything about that 4% is your real return. But if you're making less than that 4%, then you're not earning any money or whatsoever. And Kevin Warsh is like, let's just change that system. And that means that the Federal Reserve will be able to lower interest rates, but the real inflation is going to stay higher. But on paper, we'll have a 2% inflation rate. So investors obviously did not like that. And this is leading the entire Federal Reserve, or the entire US government, I would say, to a fiscal dominance, because the national debt due to that is getting out of control. And I will show you exactly what that problem is unfolding right now and what the Fed is planning to do with that. The Federal Reserve is about to lose its independence. At the end of the day, yes, the Federal Reserve is this independent entity that's supposed to protect the value of the dollar. But what is the point of protecting the value of the dollar if the entire government is going to default? And I know that this has never happened in the history of the government, but we are about to see that. In fact, that might happen in the foreseeable future. I'm talking about the next 5 to 7 years. The first reason is that the largest creditors are turning away from the United States. First of all, it's Japan. Now, Japan is planning to sell its $1.2 trillion of US treasuries, not because it wants to crush the US stock market or the US economy overall, but rather Japan is facing its own problems. Its currency is devaluing and the cost of imports is rising. And that means that the yields in Japan are also rising. Suddenly, the Japanese yields are becoming much more attractive. So there is no point of keeping that $1.2 trillion in the US when you can make the exact same return or higher return back in Japan. And the reason there is so much inflation right now in Japan is due to the war in Iran, since Japan literally imports about 95% of its energy. So Japan is literally letting its US treasuries expire. That means that the US has to find new creditors. Secondly, China. Now, I don't have to explain to you why China is slowly getting rid of these US treasuries, because there is a very serious competition. The United States is literally doing everything possible to isolate China. First, the US imposed these tariffs, then the United States imposed some sanctions, and now it does not allow AI technology to flow to China. And despite all of that, China's economy is still growing by about 5%, and China is still leading AI. Every other month, there is news that China has came out with some AI technology that is as good as the US technology, but it can offer that at the fraction of the price. And Japan and China are some of the largest creditors to the US. Secondly, the debt is expanding way faster than we actually thought. So the debt is becoming too large and very unsustainable. Look at this data. In the next 5 years, the total debt is expected to cross $54 trillion. Currently, it's about $40 trillion. So we're about to borrow an additional $14 trillion just in the next 5 years. Now, this number might not seem like a huge number, but I want you to take this number and compare it. What was the total debt back in 2020? It was $26 trillion. So think about that for a moment. This is the beginning of the United States, and this is 2020. And during this entire period, the government borrows $26 trillion. And now, just in the next 5 years, the government is about to borrow about 70% of that. Do you see what kind of a catastrophe we're about to face? And the problem with that is that you're going to pay interest on that. And the interest right now is about $1 trillion right now. But in the next 5 years, it is going to rise to $2.5 trillion. Now, $2.5 trillion is a lot of money. And again, that might not seem like a lot of money when we are talking about trillions of dollars, but take that and compare it how much the government used to pay in interest payments back in 2020. And that number is $340 billion. Do you see the difference between paying $340 billion in interest payments and $2.5 trillion? That's almost like 10 times. And that is happening in a span of 10 years. And we have already crossed half of that. We're already in 2026 when interest payments are about to cross $1.1 trillion. And the third reason is that the debt is expiring and we have to refinance it. Some of that debt that the government has borrowed between 2008 to 2022 was at a much lower interest rate. But again, the nature of debt is that it expires and you have to refinance it. And since now we are in the era of high interest rates, the cost of refinancing is rising. And this number that I'm giving you, $2.5 trillion, this is probably like the best case scenario. If things get out of control, if there is another recession, if the AI bubble bursts and the government may need to actually borrow more money, if this war with Iran goes sideways, it's already going sideways, who knows what's going to happen? This estimate that I'm giving you is based on what is happening right now in the economy. So anything else that would get out of control is going to make that situation a lot worse. Just to give you how bad that is that 36 cents out of every dollar in taxes that you are going to pay is going to go into interest payments. Where do you think the government takes the money to make these interest payments? That comes from you. Your taxes. So you are paying taxes expecting that these taxes will go into offering you healthcare or maybe building better roads or social security payments. Now, 36% or 36 cents out of every dollar the next 5 years is going to go into interest payments. That's why Kevin Warsh is proposing that we change the way we measure inflation, because his term limit is going to be up to 2030, which means that in almost 5 years, he's still going to be the chairman of the Fed. And it's going to be his job to change the way we measure inflation so that we let this inflation continue, even though that on paper, we are going to have a 2% inflation rate. And now I want you to ask yourself a very simple question. How do you think that is going to impact your life? What it's going to do fundamentally is that it is going to impact asset prices and your income. First of all, asset prices will have to adjust. And that means that the more debt there is in the economy, the more inflation there is in the economy, the higher asset prices are going to rise. So you will see gold prices probably crossing $7,000, $8,000, or maybe $10,000. They're already crossed a peak of about $5,600 back in the beginning of this year. Maybe by the end of this year, they will cross again $5,000. Think about asset prices. So the price of businesses are going to rise. But at the same time, do you think your income is going to rise? Yes, your income is going to rise, but most likely it is not going to rise as fast as inflation. If Kevin Warsh will successfully change the way we measure inflation, then based on that new inflation data, yes, your income is going to rise faster. But in reality, we know that your actual real income, your purchasing power, like how much stuff you can afford with that income, is going to go down. And that's why over time, you are going to get poorer. But the people who are sitting on real assets, the price of those assets will continue rising, which means that they will make a lot more money. So the gap between the people who are just receiving their income and the people who have assets is going to dramatically rise in the next 5 to 7 years. And this is not the first time the Fed is doing something like that. If you just look at the history of the Fed over the last 50 years, they've changed the way they measure inflation multiple times. Like, for example, back in 1980s, the Fed is like, listen, a house is actually an asset. Why on earth it's part of inflation data? So they took house prices out of inflation data, which is why we no longer track house prices as part of inflation. So house prices can rise by 30%, and yet they're not being reflected in the inflation data accurately. And we have done that multiple times, which is why the Fed can tell you, oh, inflation is like 3.5%. And then you look at your life, you're like, wait a second. The real prices have risen by 20% or maybe 25%. But this is going to make it a lot worse. So if you have not started investing yet, if you have not started buying assets yet, this is the time to do that before it's too late. If you start doing that 5 years later, when asset prices have dramatically risen, while your income is not going to rise that fast, it is going to be a lot more difficult. And probably most people will never get out of this debt trap, out of this paycheck to paycheck lifestyle because of this. So if you want a step-by-step strategy on how to start investing, which assets you have to buy, which stocks you have to buy, what are the stocks that will benefit the most out of it, I have listed all of that in the Investing Academy. The link is in the description of this video.